Hello there, anarchist artist Victor Pross speaking to you. Well, today I'd like to talk a little bit about Karl Marx's labor theory of value. Always a juicy morsel to talk about. Yeah, there's this smarmy meme on Facebook. How many capitalists does it take to change a light bulb? None. It takes workers. Okay. Anyway, some general statements before I tackle the gristle of our subject matter, labor theory of value. To live, a human being must think, act, and create the values his life requires. This has direct relevance to free markets, of course. Life is thought and action. That's the nature of a human life, thought and action. But for the anarcho-communist, or let's just say communist, socialist, zeitgeister, insofar as they accept Marx's labor theory of value, life-sustaining production is ultimately reduced to physical labor, as exerted by the light bulb changing workers. So, yeah, it's a common belief inherited from Marx that government is necessarily an agent of economic interests, and that political systems are to be defined in terms of whose economic interests they serve. So typically capitalism is commonly regarded as a system in which the state predominantly acts to serve the interests of the business class, and socialism, the working class. But this is not capitalism. But that is another discussion. But let's just get to the gristle of Karl Marx's position, where in relation to the surplus value theory. Now, here's the argument. Karl Marx's surplus value theory says that the core of capitalism is exploitation. So in a nutshell, the value of the product produced by labor is greater than the actual price of labor as paid out in wages. The capitalist therefore robs the worker of his real due, as the argument goes, as he pays only half of his whole contribution. So as the argument purports, the quote-unquote surplus value is confiscated by the bourgeois, the owner of the company, and because of this exploitation, the bourgeois capitalists are thieves. And I would say that there is no such thing, first of all, as a surplus value, as all wealth is produced by somebody and belongs to somebody. And it's particularly, it's an outrage to regard wealth as an anonymous tribal product and to talk about its redistribution, or the idea of redistributing it. The idea that wealth is the result of some undifferentiated collective process, that we all did something and it's impossible to tell who did what, like you can't tell one ant from another in an ant colony, and therefore some sort of egalitarian distribution is necessary. That might have been appropriate to a primordial jungle with a savage horde moving boulders by crude physical labor, but to hold that view in an industrial society where individual achievements are a matter of public record, well, it's just fucking lunacy, really, when you get down to it. Another issue, too, is that when the communists, when they look at humanity, they don't see individual human beings coming together for cooperation and trade. No, what they see is two huge warring classes, the capitalists, the bourgeois, and the workers, proletariat, into which any specific human being can be easily classified or categorized. That might not be the exact language that the AdComs use, but they certainly embrace this premise, just as hardline Marxists accept it, lock, stock, and barrel. And since Karl Marx was the self-appointed defender of the workers, the proletariat, that's where he raised his cause célèbre, the workers. Naturally, he found it necessary to deny the contributions made by factory owners and industrialists and entrepreneurs, the bourgeois class, the guys who are just sitting back watching the workers change light bulbs. So this is how Marx arrived at his labor theory of value. I mean, he adopted the idea from other thinkers, but Marx took it and refined it as exploitation theory, thus giving it new life. So what is the labor theory of value? Simply put, the labor theory of value holds that physical labor is the only real source of wealth. Physical labor is the only real source of wealth. That is the premise. It's also believed that wealth is an anonymous, social, tribal product. So in this worldview, the factory owners are fat capitalist pigs who simply sit back and watch the profits roll in. And by this standard, the factory owner or the business owner never contributes one iota to the production process of changing light bulbs. So given the fact that Marx was a materialist, another thing to note, he not only denied the existence of God, but he also denied the existence of mind and free will, which are considered to be religious relics from a bygone age, and so only material exists, only matter exists, only muscles exist, only physical work exists, not mind or reasoning. So the issue with the Marxist exploitation theory is that it rests basically on a false premise. Sheer physical force and labor are of little use if they are not directed by careful thought so as to contribute most efficiently. Yes, it takes labor to construct a factory, but you just can't toss 50 people into a lot with their muscles, with no plan, blueprint, or leadership, and with no knowledge of architecture and engineering. Hey, that might be necessary to build a building and a house, I guess. Wouldn't it? Yeah, I guess it would. And I think that requires a lot of extreme intellectual work. So raw muscular strength alone will not bring anything that contributes meaningfully to production. And that's this is the critical function performed by capitalists, organizing production according to better systems and techniques, which requires thinking, so that the same amount of labor can produce vastly more goods. Anarcho-capitalists acknowledge that people are individuals and do not fit easily into categories like bourgeois and proletariat, as if it were a frozen social status. You know, it's like two warring camps. You know, they can even, at least in a free society, move from one category or social station to another. It's not like that men have not risen above the bottom rung on the ladder to achieving anything. It's ridiculous, this frozen class system. It doesn't exist. Even in our current society, people often do move from one category to another. And it was only under a free market, to whatever degree it has been adopted, that an individual is freed. That if an individual is freed from the power of rapacious whims of bureaucrats or the random chance of his family name to determine how much can be achieved. Individualism, not this false bourgeois proletariat economy. It's individualism. That is the heart of the ANCOM ethics.